HOA called the cops when I swam in my own Crater Ranch lake, so I turned it into a public park. Have you ever been told you can't swim in your own damn lake? Because I have. And what started with a Karen screaming at me in a life vest ended with a full-blown federal land shift, a televised takedown, and a poetic twist that no one in the HOA saw coming. Let me set the scene. My name is Carson Mallory. I'm a second-generation firefighter-turned-conservationist. I inherited Crater Ranch from my dad, who bought the land in the 80s after retiring from smoke jumping. The centerpiece? A deep, glacial lake carved out by a meteor strike thousands of years ago, sitting like a sapphire in the middle of our 200-acre property. It's untouched, pristine, and registered as a natural aquifer with the state. We built trails, kept it clean, and swam every summer without issue. That is until she moved in. Karen Lutz, 5'3", easily 300 pounds, and shaped like an angry boiled egg in Crocs. Her face was always pinched like she smelled something sour. She arrived in the Upper Bluff subdivision 3 years ago, the HOA development that bordered our northern ridge. Within weeks, she was self-proclaimed HOA president. Within months, she was threatening people for hanging wind chimes or painting fences in non-HOA beige. But what she did next, that's when things turned personal. It was July. One of those scorcher days when the sun feels like it's punishing you for existing. I just finished fixing the fence line and stripped down to my trunks for a quick, cold plunge into the lake. My dog, Maverick, beat me in. Not 3 minutes later, a voice shrill and furious echoed across the water. "Get out of that lake. That's a safety violation." I turned, confused, thinking maybe someone had wandered too far off the trail. But no, there she was, Karen, panting at the end of my dock in flip-flops, 2 clipboards under her arm, a sun hat the size of a beach umbrella shading her puffed-up face. "That lake," she huffed, "hasn't been cleared for HOA recreational use. You're trespassing on community water." I blinked. "This lake's on my ranch." "No," she barked. "That lake sits on watershed shared by the Upper Bluff. I had it tested. You can't submerge yourself without HOA clearance or you'll contaminate the irrigation system." "Karen," I said slowly, "you can't own a view. And you sure as hell don't own my lake." She stormed off. I should have known she wasn't done. The next day, 2 county deputies showed up. One apologized before even stepping out of the truck. "Mr. Mallory, we got a call about unauthorized aquatic activity." "You're kidding." "No, sir." Said someone was illegally bathing in community water and possibly engaging in eco-vandalism. I nearly laughed, but then the officer showed me the report. Karen had filed a formal nuisance complaint claiming my reckless behavior in Crater Lake posed a contamination risk to the HOA's reservoir filtration system, which, mind you, didn't exist. They had sprinkler pumps hooked up to a tiny retention pond. That's when I stopped laughing. Instead, I invited the deputy for coffee, showed him the land deed, water rights, satellite overlays, and my certified conservation partnership with the state. He whistled low. "She's barking up the wrong tree." But it didn't stop her. The next week, she filed a zoning complaint, then a public health complaint. Then she wrote a post on the HOA newsletter calling me a rural anarchist endangering public harmony. So I hit back. Hard. I called the Department of Natural Resources. I called the State Environmental Board. I called my buddy David, a park designer with the U.S. Forest Service. And I made a decision. If Karen thought she had any claim to my water, fine. I'd give everyone access to item my terms. 2 months later, Crater Ranch Lake officially became Crater Public Heritage Park under the State Scenic Resources Act. I donated the shoreline acreage and retained private management rights through a public trust. The trail became a public loop. I built a small floating dock, compost bathrooms, and an educational sign on glacial lakes. Twist 1. I received a $150,000 grant for expanding trail access and ecological signage, something Karen tried to get years earlier and was denied due to uncooperative behavior with neighboring landowners. Twist 2. Once it was public, Karen's HOA couldn't restrict access. In fact, they were required by the county to maintain a gate for visitors crossing from their subdivision onto the new loop trail. Her property value dropped while foot traffic increased. By the time fall hit, the lake was more alive than ever. Kids learning about geology, local birdwatchers tracking cranes, retired vets teaching fly fishing. And right in the middle of it, a fuming Karen, red-faced on her porch, watching a group of senior hikers wave as they passed through her yard. The town hall meeting that followed? It was nothing short of legendary. Karen stomped in 20 minutes early, dragging a rolling cart of laminated bylaws, highlighters, and a fold-out poster labeled Community Lake Rights. Why I'm right. She looked like she was preparing for a courtroom trial and maybe a potluck. The room was packed neighbors, hikers, teachers, even a few veterans who now use the Crater Ranch trails for rehabilitation walks. And smack in the center of the crowd, a giant TV screen set to play a short clip I'd submitted to the town board. When they pressed play, it showed drone footage of the lake from above, sunlight rippling across the water, volunteers planting native grasses along the shoreline, families laughing beside the trail. Then it cut to Karen, red-faced, yelling at a group of kids for using biodegradable floaties she claimed were plastic threats to the water aura. People gasped. Some chuckled. Someone in the back muttered, "She really said aura?" The board let her speak. Karen launched into a 30-minute tirade about unauthorized trail foot traffic, illegal wildlife interactions, and the psychological distress of watching unregulated swimming. Her voice cracked when she accused me of being a rogue lake anarchist with suspicious eco-agendas. But the board had already seen my documents. The environmental approvals, the public trust, the state funding, the signatures from over 1,400 residents supporting Crater Ranch Park's designation. And that's when board chairwoman Denise, a retired geologist with zero tolerance for HOA games, delivered the blow. "Mrs. Lutz, not only does Mr. Mallory have legal authority over the lake, but by filing false reports, you've wasted county resources, harassed a conservation partner, and disrupted a public project. We're opening an ethics review of your HOA." Karen froze. For once, she didn't have a clipboard comeback. 3 days later, her HOA board voted to dissolve itself, citing toxic leadership and community fatigue. Karen was removed from all neighborhood committees. Her own neighbors, yes. Her own friends petitioned to have her walkway rerouted so no trail users had to pass by her house. And remember that grant? Part of the money funded a carved boulder at the lakefront, where families gather at sunset. Etched into the stone, "Public peace is stronger than private pride. Crater Ranch Park, EST, by community." There's also a small bronze plaque at the base, less formal, more poetic. It reads, "Inspired by the woman who tried to ban swimming." Karen moved out 4 months later. No goodbye party. Just a single yard sign left behind that read, "For sale by owner," and no trespassing. People still take selfies with it. And me? I swim every morning. Sometimes I smile knowing that because she tried to own what wasn't hers, the whole town ended up owning something bigger. So let me ask you, was I wrong to turn my lake into a park, or did she just dive headfirst into karma? The end.